Hi everybody, welcome to Tuesday's IndyCar. Today it's the 7th of August 2018. My name's Gordon Ross, and in the news today we have the Prime Minister visiting Scotland this morning, having flown in last night amid tight security. Mrs May will be meeting with the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon today at Bute House to discuss the ongoing problems with Brexit. Now Mrs May has already or her office has already leaked various parts of her statements that she's expected to make today, in the usual way that Westminster trails its coat before such events. But basically what she's promising is jam tomorrow. She's in Edinburgh officially to sign an agreement which will guarantee a £300 million package of extra help for Scottish cities and the southeast of Scotland. Now this £300 million of extra help from the UK government is not the only bit of assistance that's coming the city's way. What's often forgotten about is that the Scottish government's contributing £300 million as well towards these city packages and extra help for the southeast of Scotland, as well as some further assistance from the private sector. Now the money is supposed to be spent on developing new industries, on research and development, both scientific and in engineering. And to be honest with you, looking at it as it stands on its own at the moment, this seems to be very much a sop, a sticking plaster to keep Scotland sweet, while the Brexit train crash continues in its slow motion progress. £300 million is a substantial amount of money when you add that together with the Scottish contribution. So you've got over £500 million going into research and development. You have to ask yourself, why now? Why wasn't this done before? Why has there not been this investment in research and development by both the Scottish and the British governments before now? And the answer to that is, beforehand we didn't have Brexit looming over us, and the British economy lacking any kind of real manufactured exports in any great numbers is basically casting around for any way of creating new industries which could export something which might help to balance the trade deficit in the rest of the UK. So Scotland, being known for its innovation and research and development, is obviously a place where they want to invest that money. So anyway, Mrs May is in Edinburgh today to speak to Nicola Sturgeon. Now Mrs Sturgeon, for her part, has got to ask Mrs May some difficult questions. The main one is obviously, what is happening with Brexit? When are you going to tell us what exactly the British position is going to be? At the moment, the general consensus is we're heading towards what's now termed a blind Brexit. Now this is just a rebranding of the no-deal Brexit. In other words, what it means is we're heading towards the 29th of March without any idea what the deal is, but hoping that there will be a deal after we Brexit. In other words, they're presuming that the British government will continue to negotiate long after the 29th of March is over and we're out of the EU. So in other words, the British government is saying, don't worry everybody, we're going to keep at it until we get some kind of a deal, but we don't know what it is, so you just have to trust us. Now this blind Brexit, as Nicola Sturgeon has pointed out today, means exactly the same thing to Scottish industries as a no-deal Brexit does. In other words, it means complete uncertainty about the future. It means we are still out on our ear out of Europe without any idea how we're going to trade. And in the meantime, our exports are going to be subject to much higher tariffs than they would have been had we stayed in the European Union, or even if we had joined the Free Trade Association. So the situation is, at the moment, the usual with Britain, where the Prime Minister flies north to calm the Scots down with a bit of jam tomorrow. She's promised, Mrs May has promised, that they are going to spread the prosperity of the British state across the nation. In other words, everybody's going to get a share in the great prosperity that Brexit is going to bring. This I interpreted to mean, or some kind of code, which means that we're all going to be very much poor, and we're going to make sure that you are just as poor as the rest of us. And this is exactly what pooling and sharing in the British sense is all about. Whenever anything bad happens, Scotland's asked to share in it. Whenever anything good happens, it all tends to get hogged by the southeast of England. So I think at the moment, unless Theresa May tells Nicola Sturgeon something actually useful, that there isn't going to be a deal, or there is going to be a deal but it's going to be a bad one, it would be nice to know. It would be nice for all of Scottish industries to know what the hell is going on with Brexit, instead of which the Scottish nation is getting its usual sticking plaster over the gaping wound of Brexit. The weird thing is that actually, although the £300 million from both governments is going to come in extremely handy for research and development, it's not likely to benefit the British state, particularly since Scotland isn't going to be a part of it after Brexit. So all this £600 million, in fact nearly £1 billion when you factor in the contribution of various big donors from business who are going to top this level of assistance up to about £1 billion. That money is going to be spent in Scotland on research and development and creating new industries, new products, and new processes, and new engineering programs. If that happens in Scotland, that's wonderful. That's going to strengthen our case for when we're independent. So, kind of ironically, Mrs May, and with the help of the Scottish Government under Nicola Sturgeon, is actually strengthening Scotland's case for independence as we speak by giving us some of the jam tomorrow that they keep promising. They're giving us it now in the hope that we will do some wonderful trick and we'll pull a rabbit out of the hat and save British exporting industry from a severe recession. But I think this plan will backfire, because despite the fact that we welcome this money, I don't think it makes the case for staying in the UK stronger. I think it makes the case for leaving the UK even stronger, because we know that we have strong exports and we know that we are extremely good at innovation. We also know that we don't need the UK government to run Scotland. We already have our own government, and it's running Scotland in budget, in the black every year with a slight surplus, unlike the rest of the UK, which is almost completely bankrupt. So we can quite happily manage by ourselves, take this £300 million package from the UK government, say thank you very much indeed, we'll be on our way now, have a nice Brexit. And that to me seems to be the message of today. If I were Nicola Sturgeon, I'd be shaking Theresa May's hand and saying, look, thanks very much for this money. It's going to come in really handy after we've left the UK. I'm afraid you're not going to get much of the benefit from it, although we might sell you some of the things that we're going to develop with this money. So whatever happens in the future, Scotland is going to be strengthened by this extra cash, both from the Scottish Government and the British Government. Also in today's news, there have been dire warnings from climate scientists all across the world, saying that the recent fires, the recent soaring temperatures across Europe, across North America, across the United Kingdom, and all across the world, in fact, including places as far afield as Japan, the climate is definitely changing. It's heating up, it's becoming more energetic, and we now know that a very slight rise in temperature over the next 100 years will push the global temperatures over a cliff edge. This is a point where we lose control of the battle against climate change, where the Earth's natural forces take over and we have no way of changing the outcome. That means polar ice melting, and it means the sea levels rising anywhere from 2 metres to 60 metres higher than they are now. That would swamp most coastal cities, including London, including possibly Glasgow and Edinburgh, Liverpool, Manchester, and all of the other coastal towns and cities around Europe would be swamped. And yet nobody is thinking about this. We're all so wrapped up in our own affairs of state, our own business, if you like, that we are forgetting the bigger picture. Scotland has been leading the charge on climate change for a long, long time, but I think it's time now that we took a more urgent set of measures to protect ourselves against the impending dangers of climate change. It's no longer enough just to cut emissions. We have to start emergency planning now for what we'll do if the River Clyde were to overtop and flood the city. We have to look at modelling that. We have to look at where resources should be put, and we have to look at where medicines and food and other essential supplies should be stockpiled to stay out of the floodwater in the future. Nobody looks further ahead than about 5 years in this country, and that's something that we really need to stop doing. As an independent nation, Scotland could take charge of its own affairs, its disaster management, and we could plan further ahead. If global temperatures are rising as fast as the experts suspect, and things like droughts, fires, floods, heavy storms, severe winters are going to be the way of things in the future, then we need to start planning right now. And if Scotland's going to become independent and look after itself in these sorts of circumstances, we need also to start thinking about that and start modelling the possible effects of it so that we can plan for the future. Anyway, those are my thoughts on today's news. It is, of course, the day that many children and young people across Scotland get their examination results. In fact, my own youngest is expecting his what do they call them now? His National Fives results this morning. So he was pretty nervous last night. But anyway, I wish all our young people the best of luck this morning as receiving their results. And remember, don't worry if your results aren't as good as you expected. There are always ways to improve your exam results by taking exams again. And there are colleges where you can go back and sit exams again and improve those marks. Or you might decide to change course and do something completely different. University is not for everybody. However, having said all of that, I wish them all the best of luck. I know that young people today are probably the hardest working generation that there's ever been of school children, and the most successful in examinations. So I'm pretty certain that most of you will get most of what you hope to get today, if not all of it. But remember, it's not the end of the world if you don't get exactly what you hoped for. There are always ways to go back in there and pull the marks up in an exam if it hasn't gone well. Anyway, good luck to all of you who get your exam results this morning. I look forward to seeing everybody again tomorrow on IndyCar. Bye for now.